Today on the RepubliKen Talk Show, we're going to be talking about Corey Harris, the Dr. Fauci trial, and porn being allowed on Twitter. Stay tuned for more of that. Welcome to the RepubliKen Talk Show, everybody. I am your host, Kenneth Glenn, and today we got some more news for you guys, as usual. So we got an update on Corey Harris. Now, Corey Harris became a meme last week. A video came out that went viral, which Corey Harris was on a court Zoom call. And on that Zoom call, he was driving. He was in the car driving. And come to find out, he was driving his wife, who was really sick, to a really important meeting, or a really important doctor's appointment. And the video came out, a bunch of people were making fun of him. A bunch of people were making jokes about it, making memes about it. Oh, look at this stupid criminal. This guy's so dumb. Well, come to find out that the big thing was that he was driving without a license, allegedly. And then a few days later, it was found out that his license was no longer suspended in 2022. And then now we got an even bigger update today. And this situation just keeps getting crazier and crazier, and I thought I just had to cover it on the show. So, the Daily Beast. I don't know how to feel about that, but anyway, I'm going to read the article anyway. On May 15th, a Michigan man by the name of Corey Harris showed up at a virtual court hearing behind the wheel of his car after being cited for driving without a license. Footage of Harris speaking to the flabbergasted judge was posted online and shot to stratospheric levels. Then came the twist of the case, the revelation of the judge in a neighbor court had ordered the suspension of Harris's license to be lifted 2 years ago. So this is what I just mentioned, so everyone's making fun of him, then come to find out his license was actually, the suspension of his license was actually lifted. So, if you are not concerned about how crappy the government is and you think the government's great, they can't even file paperwork correctly. They can't even keep track of paperwork. Our justice system is messed up, and that is why I started my new series, Judged. So check that out. I have a new episode out now if you want to watch that. But things got even stranger at a Wednesday hearing, which began with Judge Cedric Simpson, I'm pretty sure that's how you say that, Cedric, revealing that Harris had in fact never had a driver's license. This is some, keep you on your toes, dude. This is some entertaining court right here. You just don't know what's going on. And ended with the defendant being taken into custody. Simpson opened up the hearing by saying that he wanted to make sure the record was clear based upon what the court has looked at. He has never had a Michigan license. Dun, dun, dun. Ever. He said. And he has never had a license in the other 49 states and Commonwealth that forms upon this great union. So, the judge finds out, he comes to this revelation that Corey Harris has never had a license to begin with. Okay, so how is he driving? How does he have a car? A lot of questions are in play. What's going on here? Because clearly one person's saying that he had a license, that they suspended his license. So this is what's going on here. This is the most confusing thing ever. And how is the government not efficient at their job? He has never had a license. The judge went to untangle the confusion, explaining that it had not been lifted, had not been Harris's license that had been suspended last October in Pittsfield Township but rather his privilege to drive. So, for those of you who might be confused, a privilege to drive. It's a limited driving privilege. It's not made up. It's not something that your mom would make up to, like, stop you from not doing your homework on time or whatever. It's a judgment issued in the discretion of the court. It's authority for a person who has like a revoked license, and they're allowed to drive when it comes to essential purposes, basically. So examples here, I have 7 of them. It's a person's employment, the person maintenance of a person's household, the person's education, the person's court-ordered treatment or assessment, community service, or othered as a condition of a person's probation, emergency medical care, and religious worship. So, say like you were drinking and driving, you got your license suspended, but you can still go to work, but you have to be home at like a certain time. That would be an example of that. Hence, for example, if he had a Kentucky license, he would be able to drive everywhere that Kentucky would allow him to drive, Simpson said. He just couldn't drive in Michigan because his privileges had been restricted in that state. So his driving privileges were restricted in that state. In fact, Harris knew the prosecutor, Conrad Siller, said during a Wednesday hearing that police body cam footage showed Harris acknowledging at least twice, quote, at least twice, to the officer who pulled him over that he didn't have a valid license. So, according to this judge, or according to the prosecutor, Harris here, Corey Harris, had admitted twice on a police body cam footage that he did not have a license twice. He admitted it twice. As to how the court figured it out, Simpson explained that his office had gone back through Harris's records, finding that he had applied for his first Michigan photo ID on May 3rd, 1999, at the age of 19. Counsel knows, and so do I, you cannot have both. Either you have an ID or a driver's license. So it's saying here that he has a photo ID and not a license, and the judge is alluding to the fact that you cannot have both. I don't know exactly how true that is, so I can't really comment on that. That's just what the judge said. So you either have an ID or have a license. That's what Simpson said. And he figured, and he has religiously every year gotten a new photo ID, or a new ID. And so he knows that he doesn't have a license. And quite frankly, I just wish he would have said that in the beginning, and all of this hoopla would have been put all aside. Hoopla. I'm not kidding, that's what the judge said. We are using SpongeBob lingo in the courtroom, ladies and gentlemen. Some, 80-year-old judge is using the word hoopla. Wow. The fresh twist in the saga was first reported on X by a journalist, or HuffPost, after Harris' distraught pretrial hearing on May 15th. Simpson revoked his bond and ordered to turn himself in the Washtenaw County Jail by that evening. Harris spent 2 nights behind bars. 2 weeks later, shortly after Harris went viral on the ABC affiliate WXYZ. 2 weeks later, shortly after Harris went viral, local ABC affiliate WXYZ, which, by the way, does ABC just have a bunch of telegraph networks that just have different letters in the alphabet? Like, is there an LMNOP one that I don't know about? Because if there is, I want to know about it. Because I would watch LMNOP every day. 2 weeks later, shortly after Harris went viral, local ABC affiliate WXYZ reported that his suspension, which was tied to a child support case, had actually been lifted by a judge in 2022. And then, quote, "It has literally been pure hell. I've been assaulted, I've been followed, I've been laughed at, I've been ridiculed, I have been disrespected." Yeah, that sucks. I couldn't imagine. That's going to be on the internet forever. And if you got like a bunch of dumb people that don't know how to check facts on things, then you are going to continue to be ridiculed for a very long time. And, yeah, it sucks. Also, unpaid child support, that's stupid. First of all, I don't even believe child support should be a thing. You should not have to pay any child support. Okay, if the mother, if you and your spouse get a divorce and you're fighting over who gets the children, and you're literally fighting to get this person's children taken away from them for good, and they only get visitation on the weekends, that you don't deserve child support. I'm sorry. Why do you earn child support? You clearly think you're better without him. I also think that child support encourages divorce. The idea that child support exists encourages women to divorce their husbands. Because they're like, hey, I can take his kid away, have his kid forever, and he has to pay it. Why wouldn't you do that? Like, that sounds like a very appealing idea. Child support is a deeply evil thing, in my opinion. And it just shouldn't be legal. You're literally fighting to take someone's child away from them. Like, that's just stupid. Harris told the station the reports shed light on a seemingly thicket bureaucratic incompetence that led to the wrongful citation. Yeah, this is literally all the court's fault. This is all just bureaucratic incompetence. That is, I just trust the government even less now. Not that I even trusted them in the first place. But in order to see the driving record wiped clean, Harris was supposed to have paid a $125 fee to the Saginaw County Court Clerk Office, which would have allowed the court to send a notice of clearance to Michigan Secretary of State's office, which overseeing regulation of the state's motor vehicles. Harris pointed a finger at the Saginaw County front of the court, an office that assisted the court's administrator. They were supposed to have lifted it 2 years ago, but they didn't, told XYZ, adding, "Always double check behind these workers because they say they will do something and then they won't do it." Which, not wrong about that either. This has been the case for a very long time. This is just what they do. They say they're going to do something, they don't do it. For example, I got a ticket for an expired registration, and trying to pay the ticket, I've emailed the court multiple times, and they have not given me an option to pay it yet. So like you can't rely on these people. These people suck at their jobs. They're inefficient. So yeah, I thought I'd just give you the update on the Corey Harris situation, on what's going on here. Moving on, Fauci. So Dr. Fauci has been on trial. He's on trial for how he handled COVID. And I wouldn't really say it's about how he handled COVID. I would rather say how he decided to play the world's largest game of Simon Says with the American people. And this is causing Democrats to lose a war. This is really bad for the Democratic Party, because the Democratic Party was the ones pushing all these COVID crap, all this COVID nonsense. And the Republicans like, hey, how about you just leave us alone? And all of the things that were being pushed during COVID, like the lockdowns, the staying home, and the staying away from work, not going to work, all of these things have actually, all those things actually increase COVID cases. Because, think about it, everyone's in their house together, just like close encountering. That actually lowered or actually increased the amount of COVID cases than actually helped. It was actually worse for COVID overall. And the geopolitical chess game that is American politics, COVID was the big move. COVID was the big decoy to remove Trump from office. That was the main point of COVID. It was to get Trump out of office, and it was a complete success. It worked very well. Many people who voted Trump initially, I made a video, my second video ever on this channel actually, is called CNN Why People Aren't Voting for Trump. And I talked about it because a lot of people were like, people who supported Trump originally were no longer supporting Trump because of the COVID and how COVID was being handled. And now this is all biting them in the butt. The Democrats are losing credibility when it comes to both Republicans and Democrats because they threw all this COVID stuff. So COVID was the queen on the chessboard. They used the queen, they sacrificed the queen, and they screwed themselves over. Because, yes, they got Trump out of office, just like the queen checked the king, but then the queen gets taken, and now the government has lost all credibility because of this disaster. The government lost all credibility when it comes to this. The science has lost all their credibility because they decided to lie to its people, fear-mongering, instead of just telling the truth. And now it's very clear to the people that this was just a ploy to get Trump out of office. And now this is why they're going after Trump legally to try to screw up. They're trying to screw up his public image. That's why they're going after him legally. That's why they have the 34 felony accounts that he got charged with. And that's why they have the Jean Carroll case, the rape case. The rape case that the jury admitted that Trump did not rape Jean Carroll, yet they still convicted him with sexual assault anyway. Doesn't make a lot of sense to me. That just doesn't make a lot of sense. And the jury also made Trump pay a defamation. So, doesn't make a lot of sense because the jury literally admitted that Trump didn't rape the girl, which is what Trump has been saying for the last, I don't know, however many years. And he's getting sued for defamation, and he has to pay the defamation suit, which just doesn't make a lot of sense. The jury said the same thing Trump said, and Trump has to pay defamation for it. What a stupid case. What a stupid country we live in. USA Today posts that the COVID guidelines caused millions to suffer Now Fauci admits that there's no science behind it. In his testimony in the House Oversight of Accountability Committee on Monday, Dr. Fauci, former director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Disease and former chief medical advisor for President Donald Trump, said the 6-foot social distancing rule, which the CDC originally recommended, had not been backed up by a clinical trial. This is despite constant claims that COVID-19 protocols were based on science. So if you remember, the government was literally saying, hey, listen to us, follow the science. And now we're learning that the things that they were telling us to do are no longer scientific. If you were paying attention during the pandemic, you would also have known that this was all a lie. If you just had basic common sense, you would have known that the 6-foot rule was just stupid. And it was just nonsense. Anyone with common sense could have figured that one out. I mean, I'm not the smartest guy on the planet, and I figured that one out at 16. I knew that was all a lie. And, some people are treating this like it's some huge twist, like it's a Freedom McFadden book, or as if it's like the ending of the first Saw movie, or like 7 or something. Like what's in the box? Fake news. That's what's in the box. But remember when Democrats would call Republicans anti-science? You don't even believe in science. You're not following the science. Get vaccinated, dude. Put your clown makeup on. Wear your mask. Your little red nose. Your rainbow puffy hair. And put your thumb in your butt. And follow the science. If you don't do that, you're not following the science. If you don't play Simon Says with the government, then you're not following the science. Well, now look who was right. It was us. All along, it was us. All along, we're the smart ones that question things. Now, I want to give this advice to all people. If something doesn't make sense, it probably doesn't make sense. If you're a pretty smart person and you look into something, let's just say something like this, and you're looking into it, and you're like, how does this make sense? And you've looked into the evidence, and you still can't make sense of it, and you're listening to the professionals, and you still can't make sense of it, it's probably because it doesn't make sense. And I want you, because this is going to benefit your safety in the future, if something doesn't make sense, don't let it make sense. Don't let people walk over you because they're the government, because they're science. If you really think the government won't do something, oh yes, they will. The government literally faked a vampire attack to take over a country. Don't tell me the U.S. government won't do something. That's a real thing, by the way. Okay, that's a Cold War operation. But besides that, but what's even crazier to me is, so I was in school when COVID happened. I wasn't in school for 2020 because I went to a private school, and our school basically just got shut down. We didn't have anything. But from 2021, or from 2020 to 2021, that school year, when I graduated, we had all these mask nonsense and the social distancing and you won't believe it. So one of the CDC guidelines at the time was during gym class, since you're running around and exercising, if you're exercising and running around, you actually had to social distance 12 feet. Because you're breathing harder and exhaling harder. And, the super air is pushing COVID even harder. You got super air. You're breathing super air. And the super air pushes COVID even further. I can't believe people are actually falling for this stuff. Dude, we're going to look back. People are going to look back on this in 40 years and go, why did you fall for that? You know how you look at your grandparents and be like, why do you smoke cigarettes? It's bad. And they tell you back when they first came out, we didn't know they were bad. The science said they were good for you. And then you look at him and go, well, duh, obviously it's not good for you. This is the same stuff. You ever look at people who go like, oh, I wouldn't have owned a slave back in the 1800s. Oh, yes, you would. Yes, you would. If you put on the mask, yes, you would. Oh, I wouldn't have joined the Nazis in World War II. Oh, I would have stood up and told them they were bad people. Sure you would, buddy. Sure you would. I believe you. Don't worry, I believe you. So these disclosures are damning and maddening for all of us who structured our lives around these rules for years. As a result, millions have suffered needlessly. On Monday, Fauci was also asked to clarify comments during the 2-day congressional testimony when he gave he was supposed to clarify his comments during the 2-day congressional testimony he gave in January. The transcript of the testimony was recently released, and he specifically mentioned on Monday to question about the 6-foot rule. And I quote, "It had little to do with me since I didn't make the recommendation, and my saying there was no science behind it meant there was no clinical trial behind it." So basically what he's saying is there was no science to back it up. That's another way to say we screwed up and there was no science behind it. But it's just a nicer, funner way to say it. So don't you think it's a little irresponsible that you couldn't even take the time to conduct the basic scientific method that we learned in 7th grade? You pushed these commands on us. You made us do these things. And you couldn't even apply the scientific method to see maybe if it worked. You know how dangerous that is? What if, by some tragedy, the distance was actually 10 feet, and COVID actually traveled 10 feet, and you're telling people to do 6 feet? You're putting a ton of people at risk. So like I mentioned earlier, if it doesn't make a lot of sense, don't listen to it, because this is life or death stuff here. What if the CDC handled something more seriously like they did COVID? Could you imagine the repercussions of that? Like, that would be disastrous. And I was critical of the CDC for this as well. Okay, I've said in the past multiple times that the CDC should just admit when they don't know, because that's more helpful. Okay, when they're just doing logical parkour and just going from thing to thing to thing, like they're Ninja Turtles running on rooftops. When you're doing logical parkour like that, you kind of start losing people's trust, because it seems like you just don't know what you're talking about. Like, imagine if in one paragraph I go from I like this to I don't like that to I don't mind it. You know that, I can't think of the puppet show, but you know that Sesame Street puppet show where the two old guys that that always things are great and then hate it the next second. Can't think of their names, but it's literally that. The CDC are literally those puppets. On Monday, Fauci did concede that COVID-19 preventable measures may have gone a little too far and led to harmful outcomes. Oh, really now? Harmful outcomes, you say? You don't say. He said it is very, very clear that public health officials in the future should consider the potential collateral negative effects. Oh, really now? They should? In the future, maybe? Oh. That's totally not what the Republicans have been saying for the last 3 or 4 years now. No. This is an original thought just coming in now. Breaking news, everybody. Of the controversial ideas like requiring masks, and ask, how can we do better next time? He also admitted in January, in the January interview, that there was little science backed requiring children to wear masks in public schools for almost 2 years. You don't say. Want to know why? Because we were saying that for the longest time. Because we're like, hey, wait a minute. You just said that kids were pretty immune to COVID. Why are we making them wear masks? And they're just like, oh, I don't know. Like, I don't know. Quote, do you recall reviewing any studies or data supporting masks for children? A staffer asked Fauci. And Fauci quoted, I might have, he answered, but I don't recall specifically what I did. I might have. He's not even sure if he reviewed anything. But he was pushing all this stuff. He had no idea what he's talking about, but he's pushing it. He's pushing all these ideas, but he has no idea what he's talking about. Okay? That's like if I was to push ideas on how cars should be manufactured. I don't know anything about cars. I could change my oil, change my air conditioning. I could, fix the light bulb in the front of the car. But, besides that, I can't do much. I could do, the 6 or 7 basic things, changing your tires and stuff. But I don't know anything about the engine. You want me to build your engine or fix something or combusts or whatever? I don't know anything. If you're a car guy, you hearing me right now talk about cars is probably making you cringe because of how little I know about them. But for some reason, when Dr. Fauci, person with the title doctor, says something, we just blindly obey. You put the mask on, your clown makeup, your wig, and the thumb in your butt. Moral of the story, we should be sheep for Jesus and not sheep for the worldly governors. And there's a passage in Matthew 25. It's talking about sheep and goats. Now, sheep are Christians that are going to heaven, and goats are Christians that will go to hell. Which, yes, that's a thing. And basically, Jesus is saying that the sheep who followed God's commands, followed Jesus' commands, the sheep are the Christians they've surrendered their intelligence and their will to God. That's what sheep are. Sheep of Jesus are people who surrender their will, similar to how these sheep surrendered their will to the worldly governors. Put on the mask and the thumb in your butt. Whereas the goats are the Christians who didn't always obey God's command. Sometimes they were just like, I don't feel like doing that right now. And, it's like, church, but it's kind of hard. And the new Fortnite update's out. And, that's the difference between the sheep and the goats. So moral of the story, we need to be sheep for Christ and not for the government. Now, moving on to the last thing of the day. Twitter. There's porn on Twitter now. Well, not now. It's always been on Twitter. So, X, formerly known as Twitter. So, Twitter got their name updated to X. So, X, formerly known as Twitter, is now officially allows users to post, view, and share nudity and sexual content under the formalized policies. Under its updated policy, Elon Musk's social media platform will allow consensually produced, distributed adult pornographic content so long as it's properly labeled, not predominantly displayed, and not predominantly displayed. So this is terrible. And this is not great. I don't like this. However, 2 reasons I don't mind it. Because A, Twitter is rated M for mature. So if he wants to have nudity on Twitter, as long as it's properly rated, which now it's M. Twitter is now rated M for mature. So yes, that makes sense. You know what? Like, as much as I don't like nudity being on Twitter, if it's an M-rated site, then whatever. And yeah, nudity's been on Twitter for a very long time. This isn't like something that's new. Okay, this has just been the thing. I haven't used Twitter for a very long time. I've just started using Twitter. I have a Twitter account. Let me see when I started using it, actually. We're going to check it live on the show, because I'm like that. April 2024. I literally joined Twitter in April. So yeah, I don't really know much about Twitter's nudity. I know that they'd have it on there because I've seen it, but I didn't really know how much of a problem it was. I guess it's a really big problem, but the problems come in later. We're going to get into that. So sexual expression, whether it's visual or written, can be a legitimate form of artistic expression. I mean, I've seen painters snort paint and sneeze on the canvas and they call it art. I mean, art doesn't really have a definition anymore. I mean, art, I hate that. Artistic expression. I just hate that. Everything's art now. The platform's policy states, we believe in the autonomy of adults who engage with who engage with and create content that reflects their own beliefs, desires, and experiences, including those related to sexuality. Now, I mean, whatever, dude. I mean, I don't like it, but if that's what you want to do, man, with your site, well, at least he's consistent. At least Elon Musk is actually consistent. That's the one thing I do gotta say about Elon Musk. He's consistent. I'm not the biggest fan of Elon Musk. Some conservatives go like, Elon Musk is like the savior of everything. I don't really think so. I think Tesla's just a deeply evil company. And anyone who's seen a lithium mine could attest to that. So I'm definitely not the biggest fan of Elon Musk. But I do gotta say, at least he's consistent. I like Elon Musk basically because he's based in his values and he stays consistent. That is the one thing I gotta say I respect about Elon Musk. The platform will still prohibit pornographic content that is exploitative, non-consensual, or promotes objectification, obscene behavior, or the sexualization or harm of minors. Now, I don't understand this. Promotes objectification. Isn't all pornography objectification in a manner, in a certain way? Because think about what pornography is. You are viewing somebody in a sexual way. That is strictly all it is. You are viewing somebody naked in their most vulnerable position. Now, whether it's consensual or not, or whether or not they want to be in that position is irrelevant, because it's still exploitative and objectification. It's still objectification. Because when you break down somebody past their fundamentally as a human, that's objectification. When you view somebody less than human, that is objectification, in my opinion. And I also believe that pornography use is psychopathic. If you view pornography, you are a psychopath. Because someone who's a psychopath is someone who uses people for their own gratification, for their own entertainment. They use the exploitating of people for their own pleasure and satisfaction. It also prevents adult content from being used for profile pictures, banners, and other publicly visible spaces. So this is another thing I really like Elon's doing. So as much as I don't like porn being on the site, which doesn't really affect me because I don't see it, Elon is basically making it so if you want to view pornography, you basically have to go out of your way to watch it. Which, like I said, pornography is terrible for the human mind and development and just sexual health in general. It's terrible for motivation and drive of people. If you want something that's better for the country, you just would not allow pornography. But at least he's consistent, and at least he's taking measures to avoid children from watching it, from children to being able to see it. It allows adult nudity or sexual content that is AI generated, photographic or animated according to its policy. So I don't like this, the AI generated one, because AI generated photos have been used. I mean, there's been plenty of things in the past where people have AI generated fellow coworkers or like fellow Twitch streamers or celebrities who have had the self-respect to not objectify themselves and submit themselves to this pornographic regime. Yet it can't be avoided because all I need to do is download an app and I can literally take a photo of any female I know. All I need to do is take a photo of you and I can have a naked photo of you like that. That is what I don't like. I don't like the AI generated nudity. I don't like that because it's so, like, I could literally take anybody. Literally, you could take children, take a picture of their face and generate a very hypersexual picture of that. And that is what I don't like. I think that's nasty. The company defines adult content as any depiction of full or partial nudity, including close-ups of genitalia, buttocks, or breasts. Which, yeah, duh. One thing I gotta say is I was on Twitter today, actually, and I saw a video. This girl was in, like, a really revealing dress, and they even blocked that. You had to hit, like, view image to see that, which is kind of neat. This is another part I like. So, explicit or implied sexual behavior or simulated acts like sexual intercourse are also considered adult content. Okay, hold on a second. I don't like that. What I like is coming up next. Users under 18 or viewers who do not provide a birth date on their profile will be unable to click on posts marked as adult content per the policy. That's good. I like this because a lot of companies don't do this. Twitter initially didn't do this. Twitch is not doing this. Elon Musk is. That's good. Porn, not great. I don't like this. He should have just banned all of it, in my opinion. However, if he's going to have it on there, at least he's taking the right precautions of that. I would rather that than not. Because Twitter is a easily accessible website that, in a way, can hide the search history in a way. Because if your parent goes through your search history and they just see that you're on Twitter, they go, oh, that's not that bad, but it is, because you could be viewing pornography on Twitter. But if your child is under the age of 18 and their age is correctly stated on the website, then you no longer have to worry about that possibility. So for that, I do like that. All right, and that is the end of my show, guys. Give me your thoughts down below. If you liked it, give it a like, comment, subscribe for more. I post stuff like this daily, so if you're interested in seeing more of that, subscribe to me and get the post notifications so you know every single time I upload. All right, I will see you guys later. Peace.